Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Switch to Movies, and we are here today to discuss the movie review of the newly released film Oppenheimer. So let's get started. Oppenheimer stars Cillian Murphy in the titular role of J. Robert Oppenheimer, who is basically known as the father of the atomic bomb, and the plotline of the film revolves around the time of World War II, where Lieutenant General Leslie Groves Jr., that is played by Matt Damon, appoints the physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer to work on the top secret Manhattan Project. Oppenheimer and a team of scientists spend years developing and designing the atomic bomb, and their work comes to fruition on July 16, 1945, as they witness the world's first nuclear explosion that goes on to forever change the course of history. Now, going into the movie, I had huge expectations from the film as it addresses a significant chapter of history, and moreover, it had huge names lined up in its assembled cast that sees Robert Downey Jr. play the role of Louis Strauss and Emily Blunt take on the hat of Catherine Kitty Oppenheimer as she is playing the role of Oppenheimer's wife. And I must say that the director Christopher Nolan has done a marvelous job in the screen space of each of the pivotal characters of the film, as you never feel that it is the actor who has been put in the spotlight by the director, but it is the character that matters here more than the legendary name playing that figure. Tracing back some historical biopics based on the World War II subjects, which has seen some remarkable films made in this genre, right from the epitome of marvelous filmmaking of Schindler's List to the iconic and beautiful biographical war drama of The Pianist that released in 2002, to the sensational true story of a war hero named Alan Turing in The Imitation Game, to the resilient insistence of Winston Churchill in the Gary Oldman starrer Darkest Hour that showcased the Prime Minister's struggle with his own cabinet to take up the route of military resistance in the fight against tyranny and fascism rather than opting for the compromise of peace treaty. Given the legendary films made in this genre, my expectations were certainly very high from Nolan's attempt on a biographical figure from the backdrop of the World War II scenario, and although the director had delivered a spellbinding film on the evacuation of Dunkirk that released in 2017, this one was certainly a different piece of cake than Dunkirk, as Dunkirk was more of a war movie that dealt with the agonizing struggles of the soldiers on a battlefield. This one was, however, more about a behind the scenes scientific discovery that culminated the war in the most tragic of manner. Well, talking about the film, I think the film has been beautifully shot with those beautiful transition of shots from the color to the black and white scenes of the film, and I think the movie is really a monumental cinematic experience, and it certainly has an astonishing impact upon you when you witness it on the big screen, and all the wonderful shots from the scientific visualries to the impeccable transitions between the differently colored shots has been beautifully blended into the final product that you see on screen. And one really has to salute the director Christopher Nolan here, who is really one of the best directors out there, as he brings out a story in the most artistic and remarkable way possible, as it is certainly a great achievement by the director here in terms of the way he pours out the film's content and builds up a scintillating cinematic experience upon it. Going on to the music of the film that was crafted by Ludwig Göransson, I think he does a marvelous job here, as working on a Christopher Nolan film is always a huge task to live up to, with its huge aura of visuality and artistic frameworks subsumed in its reels. And I think the music for the film has been marvelously composed, that beautifully scales up the scores during each of the scenes, that quite stunningly adds up to the portrayal of the sensitivity, the high soaring tension, and the vulnerability of the entire moment. There is a particular victory tapping scene here, which is one of my favorite scenes of the film, where Oppenheimer goes on to deliver the so-called triumphant speech, and I think that scene just stands out among many other scenes where the musical score has been so beautifully composed here, as it so marvelously portrays the crowd's elation while subduing in it a sense of the protagonist's guilt in the commitment of one of the most horrific acts of history. And while the protagonist makes his speech, everything in the backdrop just mutes out, and the music then culminates with the protagonist's guilt of the hazardous act and the scene just gives you goosebumps with the way it's been shot, with the camera close up on Murphy's face when he makes the speech while he's at the same point drowned in an unbearable guilt of the tragedy. Coming to the performances of the majestic portrayals in the film, I think each actor has done a stupendous job with their crafts, and Cillian Murphy really steals the show in this scintillating magnum opus by Christopher Nolan, with Robert Downey Jr. once again proving that why he's one of the best actors in the show business, and Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, and every other cast member of the film beautifully portrays the soul and the spirit of each character of the film. I'm going with 5 out of 5 for Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. If the protagonist had expressed those concerns over the possibility of his invention starting up a chain reaction that could possibly destroy the entire world, well, the pages of history seem to reveal that it most certainly did. Progress was certainly not made for destruction.